This is a fan-generated show. If you'd like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our new Rumble channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm thrilled to announce the release of my new book, Obama's True Legacy: How He Transformed America. There's a reason why Mike Huckabee calls it a ferocious and chilling read. Order it now at Amazon.com or at FrontPageMag.com. Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. Tonight, another fantastic program with another fantastic guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember we're a fan-generated show and we are still being persecuted by the deep state, shadow banning, and all kinds of nasty stuff from them. So we need as much help from you as we can get. So at least subscribe to our YouTube and Rumble channels. Press instant notifications. Go to jamieglazov.com. Check us out there. Subscribe to our newsletter there. If you're in a giving mood, please donate to us through our PayPal account. Follow us on Twitter at Jamie Glazov. Follow us on Facebook at Jamie Glazov. And most importantly, support Annie Cyrus at liveuptofreedom.com. What an honor and privilege it is to have back with us this evening Trevor Loudon. He's so many things, especially a public speaker, a political activist, and author of his latest book, Security Risk Senators. Trevor, what an honor to have you here.
Oh, it's always great to be on. Thanks so much, Jamie, and a shout out to the audience.
Did I miss out anything in the introduction? You're always adding things to your activities.
Well, I have got a new book. It's called Stealth. It's about Kamala Harris, but it's also about the Maoist Chinese roots of the takeover of the Democratic Party and the riots, who's behind the riots that are going on now. So it's very relevant to right now.
Wow, we just can't keep up with all your tremendous work. Trevor, we definitely want to get to the riots, but just too many things are happening.
I know. It's big news tonight.
Well, we thought that it was the Musk-Trump argument, and then all of a sudden it's the riots, and now it might be World War III, or let's hope not. But Israel has attacked Iran. Your thoughts?
Well, it's overdue. Full props to Bibi for doing it. And I just wish President Trump had been more encouraging. I think it's going to put some egg on his face. But Bibi did what he had to do for his people. He left it as long as he could. But look, Iran could have the nukes operational any time. I think they probably already have, to be honest. And I think this. I just listened to Bibi's speech, and it was all about saving his people, acting in time rather than what happened in World War II when we let Hitler get away on things. And so, look, great. I know who knows what the consequences are going to be, but this was the right thing to do. And Bibi's a hero for his people for doing it.
Well, Trevor, a couple of things here. I mean, this has been going on for a long time. I mean, I remember back in 2010, 2011, I remember there's been talk and worry about Iran getting nuclear weapons for a very long time. So this has been a long time coming, and maybe they've had these capabilities already for a long time, but they must have the capability for sure now. And if you've got mullahs who believe in the Quran and Hadith and believe that Jews should be exterminated from the face of the earth, and they proclaim this very openly from the rooftops, how can you let that regime continue to exist and have nuclear capabilities, right? I mean, if fanatics are saying that their whole purpose of life is to decimate you and they have nuclear weapons, you got to do something, right?
Yeah, look, there is no choice here, and it was lacking was courage from Western leaders, and Bibi's just gone and done this with obviously the full consent of his cabinet and senior military leaders, etc. So no, I think this is a courageous move that had to be done, as was his responsibility, and he's lived up to that. So let's just hope it is very successful and Iran is defeated very, very quickly. And as Bibi said in his speech, we are not the enemy of the Iranian people. We think your day of freedom is near. So this could be a great blessing to the people of Iran as well, as they can finally get rid of those damn mullahs and live as free people again.
Well, that's very interesting too. Just a sec, I want to get to that, but just something you said about Trump. You were saying he might have egg on his face, and we know that Trump is very much against war in general. I mean, look, we're all against war. Sometimes there's a justified war, but obviously, but maybe behind this, why did you say that? You think Trump should have publicly been more supportive of Israel? We never know what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, he is quite pro-Israeli.
He is, but he should have been a lot more public. You know, he put bombers in Diego Garcia weeks ago, and it was all ready to go. But then he seems to be listening to Steve Witkoff about we can do a deal. Let's do a deal with Iran, which was a complete cop out in my opinion, and futile and doomed to failure right from the start. So look, I think Trump would have been a lot better off had he been just telling Iran, if you don't back off right now, Israel's going to strike you, and we will support them. That's what he should have said.
Well, absolutely, Trevor. And I mean, how do you even have a deal with the mullahs? I mean, they, death to Israel, death to America. They've been killing Americans since 1979. And causing so much trouble everywhere in terms of, supporting terrorism all over the world, supporting Hamas, the Muslim Brotherhood, Hezbollah. I mean, this is a terrorist regime, right?
Yeah, they run drug rings. They were responsible for the deaths of 283 Marines back in 1983 in Lebanon. Look, they openly call us the great Satan. They call Israel the little Satan. See, this is what I think Trump doesn't seem to get. And I hate to criticize the president, but I'll say this: ideology. Not everybody's motivated by the deal. Not everybody just wants to get money and live a happy life. Certain people are motivated by ideologies. The Iranians are motivated by the 12 ideology. They believe that by creating chaos on earth, they can bring the 12th Imam back and usher in a new golden, well, that's the way to get to heaven. So you can't do a deal with people like that. And that's why I think, you've got problems trying to do a deal with Putin. He wants to go down as the guy who reconstituted the Soviet Union, the Russian Empire. He's got more money than he knows what to do with. Why would he be motivated by a deal? Some people you can deal with, some only respect force, sanctions, and ostracism. And I think the policy of the United States has been to ostracize Iran. Obama went back on that which was a huge mistake. And I think I'm glad that Netanyahu and his government has said to hell with this. We're going to do this. We're going to save our people. We're not going to wait for some false deal. It's never going to be honored. We're going to do our duty. And I think that's what we've seen tonight.
Well, how could you possibly believe that the mullahs want to be honest in some kind of deal where they won't have nuclear weapons? It's like Hitler agreeing not to wage war on Jews. It's like Stalin and Lenin agreeing not to exterminate the kulaks and religious people, etc.
This is their religious belief.
Yeah.
This is core belief that Jews must be exterminated and they must bring chaos to the earth to bring back the 12th Imam. You're not going to deal with people like that.
Yeah.
You push them out of power. People say we shouldn't be going for regime change in Iran. Absolutely, we should. Why don't the Iranian people deserve to live freely as well? They've had this. Iran was once one of the most progressive in the proper sense places in the Middle East. They used to call Tehran the Paris of the East. lots of culture, beautiful women and wearing normal Western skirts, nice cars. It was a great place. And the mullahs came in with the help of the Soviet Union at the time and wrecked it. And now those people deserve to be liberated. And I think, as Bibi said, your hour of liberation is near. We're on your side. That is the message that the West should give to all the tyrannies. Should tell the people of communist China, tell the people of Cuba, you rise up, we will support you. We will. This is Reagan's vision. Let's end the evil empire in our time. And it could be done with very little bloodshed, tough economic sanctions, and the people in those countries would do the job themselves.
Well, thank you, Trevor. That would be great if that could actually happen. So, just in terms of strategically, militarily, like maybe Iran is hiding some of this stuff underground, or I'm not an expert in this, but Israel obviously knows what it's doing. The IDF knows what it's doing. Do you think that what do they have to do, and do you think they'll be able to do it successfully?
Look, I'm not a military expert. I'm looking at the moral question here. And this is what has be done today is fraught with dangers. What if Iran has weapons we don't know about? What if they have weapons planted on Israeli soil or on American soil, or terrorist attacks are launched across the West? All of this could eventuate, absolutely. But it was going to eventuate anyway. And better to get in there now and eliminate Iran's abilities to wreak havoc as much as humanly possible. And I have a lot of faith in the Mossad and the IDF to do the job very, very well. But Bibi knows there will be retaliation. The only question is, at what level will it be? And I'm hoping they can really destroy Iran's military capability. I think that will spark revolution within Iran, and we could see things change pretty quickly. We saw how quickly Syria changed a little while ago, right? Well, how quickly could the people of Iran rise up and maybe end this war in a way that we're all better off? So, yes, this is a very risky strategy, but it's this risky because it wasn't dealt with years ago, because Obama helped the Iranian nuclear problem. He enabled the Iranian expansion around the world. He wanted Iran to be the dominant player in the Middle East. So we are now dealing with the consequences of that, and it's risky, but not dealing with it is even more risky.
Yeah, well, let's just pray, because there's obviously going to be attempts at retaliation by Iran against Israel, and then who knows what these anti-Semitic forces will try to be doing worldwide, and also obviously towards the Jewish people. So the Jewish people have to get ready to be, more careful and protect themselves. But this could also extend to the great Satanists in the Iranian minds and Islamic minds, right? So we're entering dangerous time, but I'm with you all the way on everything you're saying. Israel's got to do this. But wow, that would be amazing and so great if Israel weakened that totalitarian terrorist regime so badly that then the Iranians could rise up and free themselves.
I think that will be the best outcome here, and I think that's immensely possible. The Iranians do not like the mullahs.
Yeah.
How many times have they risen up and almost overthrown their regime? But that happened under Obama and Biden. It didn't happen under Trump. Trump would have encouraged the people, and the regime would have fallen. Just like the Chinese almost overthrew their regime a few years ago in the white paper protests. A little bit of encouragement from America and heavy economic sanctions, and the CCP could have been over.
Yeah, it's so disappointing what's happened to our, I guess I could call it the camp on the right, because we don't even need to name these individuals, but we're on the same side on so many things. But this Jew hatred has grown, this very weird anti-Semitism. And people that are, with us on all the other issues are against Israel attacking Iran. They're just, they've lost it, eh? They don't get it.
Yeah, well, look, the Russians have spent a lot of time and a lot of energy and have a lot of agents in this country promoting isolationism, promoting this false idea that America will be safer if we abandon all our overseas allies. The exact opposite is the truth. Israel has supplied so much intelligence to this country, has stopped so many terrorist attacks, has helped us test weapons. Israel has been a fantastic ally to this country. And
Yes.
the idea that's on the American right, which is the same, very similar to the isolationist wing that was in America before World War II that said we should not oppose the Nazis. Remember those people?
Mm.
Well, we've got a similar problem on the right here now, and I could name them. You could name them. Mark Levin has been calling one of them out very recently,
Yeah.
and we've got to we want an America going forward that stands with its allies, because standing with your allies is the best guarantee of freedom and safety for all of us. Forget this cowardly appeasing of dictators and surrendering spheres of influence to the bad guys. America's got a lot of power. It doesn't mean you have to go to war. It means you cut off the funding to the bad guys, and the people in their own countries will do the job for you.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, in general, all you got to do is look at how the Jewish people run their societies and environments. You go take a look at what's happening in Israel and how people live. And then you just take a little peek at what's going on with Hamas and under Hamas, and you read the Hamas charter. You take a look at what Hamas did to the Bibis kids. It doesn't take rocket science to figure out which side might be just possessed by Satan. Also, as a Christian, this is a whole other thing. But I would be completely on Israel's side for also reasons of faith, which are obvious and belong in another discussion. But look, even if some people don't even, if they don't sign up for what I just said, Trevor, I think that being Israel first is actually being America first.
100%.
Right?
100%. And Israel's done fantastic. There's been a fantastic symbiotic relationship between the two countries that has benefited both of us. But you touch on something there. There is very little moral discussion on the right now. Reagan was great because he saw this in moral terms. He saw the evil empire versus the good, the alliance of the brave and the good countries. And he used that moral standing to take down the Soviet Union. But we seem to have lost that. We
Yeah.
can do a deal with China, even though they oppress their people, slaughter the Uyghurs, torture people, organ harvest, supply fentanyl to our kids, whatever they do, support Black Lives Matter. We can do a deal. We can do a deal with the mullahs, even though they're some of the most evil people on the planet. You know, we have to have a moral stand, because God does not help immoral countries. As de Tocqueville said, America is great because America is good. Being good means making moral stands on international matters.
Yeah.
We want God's help going forward. We got to stand morally here, and it's moral to stand by our allies, and it's moral to stand against the evil powers, because those
Absolutely.
evil. If we love our brothers, we love our neighbors. The Iranian people are our neighbors. The Chinese people are our neighbors. The Ukrainian people are our neighbors. We should be standing by those people against the evil powers and defeat the evil powers in our time. Let's finish Reagan's vision. Let's make the
Yeah.
world a better place by being brave and courageous.
Yeah, absolutely. Amen to that. I remember when I was a kid at the time, and my dad and my mom and my siblings, we were so excited when Reagan made that speech and he said that Marxist Leninism will end up on the ash heap of history where it belongs. And he summarized Solzhenitsyn's Gulag Archipelago in one sentence by calling them the evil empire. And you're so right, Trevor. We need a return to that moral clarity. And you've got one side. I mean, my heart breaks for those Israeli Jewish boys and girls that are sent in to do this door-to-door stuff with all these booby traps, and so many Jewish boys and girls are killed because Israel, what a moral army, because they could just bomb, carpet bomb, but they don't want to cause innocent casualties. They don't want to kill. They want to kill as less innocent people as possible. So they send their boys and girls in to do the job on the ground, and they lose so many people below that because of that. And then we just think we've got one side that's trying to carefully bomb, and the other side is hiding underneath a hospital and holding children on top of that. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out which side is possessed by Satan.
Yeah, look, exactly. And whose side do you want to be on? Do you want to be on God's side or Satan's side, or in the middle, which means you're on Satan's side?
Yeah.
You know, there's only one side to be on here. And I think we've seen a victory for the side of good tonight. Let's hope
Yes.
the victory is carried through with as at least pain and suffering as possible. If it sparks a wider war, that'll be bad, but that wider war was coming anyway. You know,
Yeah.
Iran was going to nuke Israel and probably Saudi Arabia as well. The war was coming. Let's snuff it out small time rather than let it get bigger. You know, no problem is. Every problem is solved. The earlier you confront a problem, it's always better than leaving it to the last moment. And so,
Mhm.
good for Israel tonight. I'm very proud of Israel tonight.
Fantastic. Thank you, Trevor. Well, and now we look at what we think is just common sense, good and evil, but I guess it's very confusing for the left. So in the United States, you would think that a country has a right to only take in legal immigrants. And if somebody comes in illegally, I mean, what other country in the world allows this? So if somebody comes in illegally, especially if they're a criminal, it's probably a good idea to make them leave and not come back. And the good immigrants that want to come, look, I'm an immigrant. And we did things the right way. You apply, you know, you don't swim across some lake or climb over some wall. Just do things the right way. But apparently the Dems, as we know, are not on board with that. Let me not go on too long of a tirade here. So now we've got riots in LA, and you would think that we would just need law and order and Trump coming in, sending in the National Guard, etc. But Newsom and Karen Bass and all these people, they have a big problem with it. How do you read it?
Well, Karen Bass is a communist, like not a liberal, not a socialist. She's a communist. She was involved with the Line of March, the Black Panthers, the Communist Party USA, Democratic Socialists of America, been to Cuba at least 17 times, was accused by Daryl Gates, the former police chief in Los Angeles, of smuggling weapons, Cuban weapons, into Los Angeles for gangs, you know, but she's the mayor now. And so these riots are all Trump's fault. See, this is the narrative. Gavin Newsom says it's all Trump's fault. Chris Murphy, the hard left senator from Connecticut, said this is Trump's fault. Kamala Harris, who I wrote my book about, a total Marxist. It's Trump's fault. No, it isn't. Who is behind this riots is a pro-Chinese Communist Party called the Freedom Road Socialist Organization. Please, people, write that name down. You'll see this come out. Freedom Road Socialist Organization has completely organized these riots. They're a pro-Chinese Communist Party, and they are the same people that organized the George Floyd riots in 2020. 100% same people. They control Centro CSO, an organization in Los Angeles. that was originally started by Saul Alinsky back in the 40s and that they now control. They work with the Brown Berets. They are organizing these protests. Now, with them is the Southeast Los Angeles Club of the Communist Party USA, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, and other groups, all of whom are loyal to China. This is a Chinese operation. We've got to be very clear about this. Now, Trump's just gone soft on China the last couple of days, while China is burning Los Angeles. He's got to see the connection here. I just talked to an Australian former intelligence officer and sent him some information that I'd gathered on these communist groups. And he said, yeah, as soon as it broke out, I knew this was a Chi-Com operation. This is what it is. And it's going, if Trump, and I'm glad he sent the National Guard in, I'm glad he's mobilizing the Marines. But of course, Newsom, who's China's little boy in California, wants to change that. But this is going to spread right across the country unless it's snuffed out very, very quickly. So what we're going to have a spillover in Ukraine because the Russians are going to attack the Baltic states pretty soon. We've got the Chinese are going to take advantage of this. Rocket Boy's probably going to do something, and Iran may try and do something. But because of what Bibi's done, that might delay everything. But we could see major attacks on America from overseas while we have a revolution going on within our country. That's basically what I think is they're trying to angle for. So the sooner Trump can shut this down with the full force of the military, the better.
Wow, we're entering quite interesting times. I'm not sure interesting is the best word to use. Trevor, definitely communist revolution, a communist attempted a coup even on some levels. We've got also the Muslim Brotherhood. We've got the jihadists. This isn't just teenagers throwing rocks. And we know that this isn't really even about illegal. Yes, it's about the illegal immigrants, but you got people waving the Hamas flag, the Palestinian flag. So there's a lot going on here. What interests me...
Yeah. Oh, well, so it's just like David Horowitz used to say, the issue is never the issue. The issue is always the revolution. This is not about the legals. This is just an excuse to start a revolution.
Well, you know how the tow trucks are on the highway sometimes sitting there. And yes, they're sitting there to help people. But still, I use that example somewhere that they're there. And it's maybe not the best example, but we know that Soros's people, Xi's people, Putin's people, Hamas's people, they're waiting with all their people and all their stuff, and then they're waiting. Oh, the George Floyd thing. Oh, now this thing, now this thing. And then they send in the troops, right? Because it's something that's much larger. And that's exactly what you're saying, Trevor. So, yeah.
The Freedom Road is a Maoist organization, and the Weather Underground, which used to be a Maoist organization, their magazine was Prairie Fire because Mao said a small spark can start a prairie fire. So this was a spark. The same day the riots, no, 3 days before the riots started in Los Angeles, the Freedom Road held meetings all around the country about going after ICE. Now, when George Floyd riots erupted, that was the third attempt. They tried to start the riots when the jogger was killed in Atlanta. They tried to start them again when Breonna Taylor, a young black woman, was killed in Louisville, Kentucky. Neither of them worked. George Floyd was their third attempt. And because it was right in their headquarters and it was so public, it was relatively easy to get it going. But they had riots going within 2 days all over the country because they were ready for it. The leader of Freedom Road, and I've got her on tape saying this, said at the beginning of when Trump got inaugurated, their job was to bring down President Trump by making the country ungovernable. And they waited till election year and they started those riots, just like they are doing right now. This has been planned for several months. They've been needling ice wherever they can around the country. They knew they'd eventually get a spark.
Mm.
Got the spark, and it started. Now they're planning to have rallies all over the country on Saturday to stir this up even further. We'll
Mm.
see how that goes.
Yeah.
But if they're not stopped, they will be even worse than the George Floyd riots.
Oh, absolutely. And Trevor, oh, I cannot even begin to express how much I hate these people, the left and everything that it represents. And I've been studying them for so long, and so have you. You're an expert, and I already know what they're going to say. I can finish their sentences for them. And so this is what interests me very much. So I'm very interested in the peaceful protests theme. And I'll just try to tell this quickly. When I was young and I was studying Holocaust denial, and I was fascinated by it, like why? What do these people really want? And the more I studied Holocaust denial, I began to realize that these are people who deep down want another Holocaust. So they deny the Holocaust, but they want to create an environment to do another one. And deep down, they're happy that it happened. When I studied Gulag denial, and that was really personal to me. And so when we came from the Soviet Union, I was growing up and I saw these people that, Stalin wasn't so bad, and oh, come on, it wasn't that bad, and blah, blah, blah. And then Chomsky trying to deny the testimony of refugees from Pol Pot and stuff. It's not so bad. And so Gulag denial. But then you look at these Gulag denialists and you begin to realize these are people who want to perpetrate another Gulag. Then when you study jihad denial and the people denying what Islam really is and what jihad really is, then you really look deep into their heart and you realize what they actually want. And so I'm very interested in this. The protests are peaceful. And while they're saying the protests are peaceful, you see people like throwing boulders at police officers' heads. And you see these fires. And tell me a little bit about the psychology of saying that protests are peaceful when they're deadly, and really deep down what these people really want.
Well, you're absolutely right. They want a revolution.
Yeah.
And what they want to do is damp down the two things, damp down the opposition to that revolution. Oh, it's just peaceful. We just want a fair go for the immigrants, We just want families to stay together. No, they want a full-blown revolution. They want to overrun the country. It's like before World War II, we had isolationists here, and they'd say, "Oh, we don't favor the Nazis," or saying we shouldn't get involved in opposing the Nazis, right? No, we don't support the Nazis. They did support the Nazis. Lindbergh was the leader of that, went to Germany multiple times, got a major honor from the Nazi party. No, we don't support the Nazis. And it's like the isolationists here now. No, we don't support Iran. We don't support Putin. We don't support the Muslim Brotherhood. Damn right they do. Damn right they do, either for money or for ideology. These people who say this are lying through their teeth. They absolutely support the enemies of America. Absolutely. So this whole, and the other little thing here is communists, the peace movement is always controlled by communists. And I know this from a friend of mine who studied in the Soviet Union at Lenin's Institute for Higher Learning. And the Soviet instructor, this was back in the 80s, said, where there are many intelligent people in the Soviet Union, brilliant people, but nobody has ever come up with a weapon as powerful as the peace movement. So, but you got to, what's the definition of peace to them? The definition of peace is no more opposition to communism. The definition of peace to Iran is no more opposition to the mullahs. We think of peace as friendly relations and everybody gets on. They think of peace as conquest. They've won. So there is no opposition. There is no resistance. And so when they talk about peaceful protests, it is peaceful to them because it's bringing a greater peace in the end, where there will be no opposition to their regime. Will there be no opposition to their communism or their Islamic supremacism or whatever they're pushing? So it's a scam designed to make it think it isn't as bad as we've been told. And but the code word to the perpetrators is, we know what this is about. We're going for peace. Yeah, we're all about peace. We want to conquer you so you can no longer resist.
Trevor, words of
Another example is the communists always talking about democracy. That's why the North Korea is the People's Democratic Republic. East Germany was the German Democratic Republic. They're all about democracy. When we think of democracy, we think of rule of law, representative elections, and I'm a Republican, I don't believe in democracy. I believe in a constitutional republic. But most Americans have a favorable idea of the term democracy. But what democracy means to a Marxist is democracy is the rule of the people. Who are the representatives of the people? The Communist Party is the representative of the people. So democracy is ruled by the Communist Party. That's
Yeah,
what they mean.
yeah,
That's not what we understand.
No, absolutely. And thank you, Trevor. And the reason I giggled is that just the profound truth of what you're saying, and just my own observations just throughout my life. What I'm very interested in is just how loving they are. I love you, my brothers and sisters. And the moment you disagree with something, it starts. And I remember when I was a waiter, and I was a waiter at this restaurant, right? And back in the day, and there was there's a clique of waiters and waitresses that are very lefty because it's artsy and they're trying to be actors or whatever it is. So I was hated by a certain percentage of them, but there was one guy in particular. He was this communist, and I remember he was telling everybody that he loved them very much. And then he came up to me one time in the kitchen and he goes, "Jamie, communism doesn't work because of people like you." And I remember I went home and I started doing the math. Communism doesn't work, Jamie. Get rid of Jamie, communism works, right? But what happens if there's a lot of Jamies? But it's what you're saying. They're going to have their peace, but after a lot of terror and mass murder.
Well, the Weather Underground. I had a friend who infiltrated the Weather Underground, and he spoke with Bill Ayers one night, the leader of it. Good friend of Obama's. Obama used to have dinner at his house 6 nights a week for nearly 8 years, right? Best friend. They were talking about the revolution in America, and they said about 10% of Americans would not accept the new regime. So my friend asked Billy, what do you do about those 10%, which would have been about 25 million people back at that time? He said, well, we have to eliminate those people.
well,
25 million.
yeah, yeah,
This is the psychology. As Stalin said, you got to break eggs to make an omelet, don't you? What does it matter if?
yeah.
And he also said, one person dying is a tragedy, millions dying is statistics.
Yeah, yeah. And so when we see what they do, what Black Lives Matter did, and all those businesses they burnt down and everything that they did, and now what we see what some of these illegals have done to American citizens, and when Newsom's talking, when Karen Bass is talking, when Kamala's talking, we know deep down what they really want. And what they really want, and this is what some people are warning about, and you've alluded to this and mentioned it during the show. There might be a summer of communism and a summer of Bolshevik revolution, a summer of jihad 2025 coming, because they're ready. And this is going to happen. This might happen this summer.
Look, we are in a pre-revolutionary situation now. They got Chinese backing here, Iranian backing, Russian backing. You've got all of these forces, and they're looking at Trump, and they're thinking, he's destroying our narrative. He's destroying the race narrative. A lot of blacks are becoming conservatives now. A lot of Latinos are becoming conservatives. We rely on the racial minorities to bring about the revolution. We have to move. We cannot give this guy another term. You look what he's done to China. He's given China a hard time. Look, You know, they are going to make a move this year. I can promise you that. The only question is how resolute our governors and president are in overturning it, stopping it. You know, there've been a few times in history where communist revolutions have been stopped, like Chile and Indonesia and other places, but they've always taken very, very resolute action. And I don't mean killing people or anything like that, but I mean arresting people who commit crimes and prosecuting them and jailing them and exposing to the American people how deeply entrenched this revolution is, and exposing to the American people the Iranian and Chinese backing of this revolution. That's what people got to understand. What's happening in LA is a Chinese operation. When you buy your junk at Walmart, remember you're supporting this stuff. You know, any money you spend with China is supporting the revolution against this country. And I think we all have a moral obligation to give China nothing while it is still a communist nation, because they're doing this. They did the Black Lives Matter riots, and they're doing this, and they've never been held to account for any of it. And the American people have to understand what this is, so they will support the decoupling of the United States from China, which has to happen if this country is to survive.
Thank you, Trevor. So interesting how much they hate this country, how much they hate freedom. Newsom, Kamala, Bass, like deep down, when they see the American cities burning, when they see, the police officers getting hurt, when they see the American citizens getting hurt, they're happy. They hate us and they hate America. The great
When the Black Lives Matter, and she was friends, Kamala Harris is friends with the founder of Black Lives Matter, very close friends. When those riots were going on, Kamala Harris was openly coming on, we need lots more of them. Not, let's settle down, let's ease the tensions, let's act like Americans and respect each other. No, we need more of them. She publicly said that. Because she is a communist to her core, and she wants to transform America into what would resemble China. That's what she wants.
Yeah, yeah,
Of course, going to blame Trump for these
yes.
riots, because the
And when I,
narrative is Trump's a fascist. That's what they'll say. Trump's a fascist. If he clamps down, that proves he's a fascist, and doing anything to fascists is moral. You know,
yes,
like remember we used to watch Hogan's Heroes as kids, and the prisoners were in a prison camp in Germany, and they would steal from the Nazis and lie to the Nazis and kill the Nazis, and we all laughed and thought it was great, because of course doing things like that to Nazis is a moral thing to do.
yes.
Well, if they think we're Nazis and fascists, it is their revolutionary duty to steal our elections, to rob us blind, to create revolution, and even kill us when they get the chance.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to say. Thank you, Trevor. That's what I was going to say. I said hurt, but we know that Mao talked about and wrote about the importance of killing millions and millions of people. They want to kill. They want to engage in mass murder. And a very famous historian, David Potter, talked about negative identification, and I've studied this and written about it. So when the leftists, they support the Castros and the Maos and the Pol Pots, they're living vicariously through it because they lust for that murder, and it's just driven by so much malice. Trevor, our great Daniel Greenfield has written a lead feature at Front Page recently titled "Arrest California's Leaders and the Riots Will Stop." Daniel is now the CEO of the David Horowitz Freedom Center. Great guy, and I would say a genius on some levels. Very profound article. Trevor, you think that, because Newsom was saying, hey, Trump, you want to arrest me, come and get me. But I think some of these leaders should be arrested for some of the things they're saying and doing, right?
Well, I think there are legal cases that could be made against people like Karen Bass.
Mm.
and Newsom. Look, I think the first step is go and round up all the leaders of the Freedom Road Socialist Organization. That'll stop it. But yes, I think it is about time that certain American, and I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not going to say that certain people should be arrested, but I think there are leaders in this country who are working with foreign entities who should be arrested on those charges. They're acting as agents of foreign powers, and there are leaders that are certainly negligent, and there are others that are deliberately and willingly trashing the constitutions of their states and of the country, and are acting in a treasonous manner and a seditious manner. So I have no objection if charges are laid against people in high office who have been found to commit various crimes, whether it's acting as a foreign agent, not being registered under the FARA Act, whether it's acting in a seditious manner. Yeah, I think it's absolutely fair and just that these people should be investigated, and if evidence is found, charges should be laid and prosecutions should be carried through.
All right. Trevor, I was shocked that Ilhan Omar's daughter has applauded the anti-ICE riots. She's urged for death to the colonial empire, and she's called the U.S. and Israel the one oppressor. Are you shocked that Ilhan Omar's daughter has taken this position?
I'm shocked that Ilhan Omar hasn't.
Mm.
Look, her daughter is as radical and as lunatic as she is. She is, look, Ilhan Omar has done, look, Ilhan Omar has been named as a Qatari agent in a Florida court case.
Mm.
She's worked with known Muslim Brotherhood characters, all this kind of thing. There seems to be this thing in America, you don't go after members of Congress. You don't, they can do whatever they like. They can go to Cuba, they can go to China, they can work with enemies. You don't touch members of Congress. No, we got to end that. If these people are going to do these things, look, when you publicly call for American citizens to die, I think there are charges that you can lay for that sort of thing, are there not?
Right.
Again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the specifics. I don't know the exact words she said. I can't comment on her case. But there are people. Look, every single person out there who threw rocks at the cops should be rounded up and prosecuted.
Yes.
Everybody who egged them on, everybody who crossed state lines to participate in a riot. That's how they got the Chicago 8 in 1968, because these people crossed state lines to start a riot. The law says if you cross state lines or use communications that cross state lines,
Yes.
that's a 5-year jail sentence.
Absolutely.
So why are these laws not being applied?
Yeah.
Those, if applied, look, when the communists brought 10,000 people into Missouri from out of state to burn Ferguson in 2014, they brought 10,000 people from out of state.
Mm.
Every one of those 10,000 people
Yeah.
was committed a felony.
Yeah.
If that had been applied in 2014, we wouldn't have had the riots of 2020, and
Yeah.
we wouldn't be having the riots now.
This is what the totalitarians do. During the Tiananmen Square massacre, they say that the government was bringing in certain kinds of people from elsewhere to crack down on the Chinese people. The Iranian regime has brought in different kinds of people from elsewhere to crack down on the Iranian people, and now something very similar is happening in terms of bringing other people to do certain things. I think an analogy could be made there. Trevor, we got to go, but very quickly here, it's very I've always been fascinated just how evil just keeps resurfacing. So we thought we won the Cold War. Oh, my family was so excited. I was excited. 1990, 91, all that collapse. But did we win? Okay, things seem to collapse physically, but that evil ideology came over here and looks to be winning on many levels. You would think that the crumbling of Stalinism would be such a good thing, but a lot of forces in Russia pine and yearn for the return of Stalin. pine and yearn for the return of the Soviet Union. Can you briefly touch on this? You're an expert on it. There are some efforts in Russia to reestablish the Soviet Union. We know that Putin has been sulking over the years that the Soviet Union collapsed. Any wisdom on that?
Look, they held a conference in Moscow this week about reestablishing the Soviet Union. It was called Moscow 2050. And you had several American communists there attending it, like Jackson Hinkle and others. They were there. So Lavrov was in charge of it, and they put out a document saying our job, our mission is to reestablish the Russian Empire, the Soviet Union, take over Eastern and Central Europe, the Middle East, parts of Africa, and parts of Latin America. It's all written out there. We've got it transcribed. I can send you the links. But look, the appeal of communism is like criminality. There's always some criminals in society.
Yeah.
There's always some bitter and twisted people who can be sucked into an ideology that says you're going to get your revenge. You're going to get equal shares. You're going to, you're going to get this. Communism is a Cain religion.
Yeah.
It feeds like Cain in the Bible, Cain and Abel. It feeds on jealousy, resentment, bitterness. If you can feed jealousy, resentment, and bitterness in people, communist ideology will always appeal.
Absolutely.
It's always going to be with us, like crime is always going to be with us. It must be treated like crime and cracked down very, very harshly.
Profound words, Trevor. Cain's murder of Abel, the first communist revolution, the pretension to pretension to equality. And communism goes against everything in the Bible, the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not covet, etc. Trevor, most important question till we go. I'm loving the beard look, and I know some other people have made a few very positive comments. Can you tell us about this new look you got? I like it.
Yeah, well, look, it started out not shaving over Christmas, but I've never grown a beard in my life, and I didn't actually think I could.
Okay.
I thought that whenever I've tried it a little bit in the past, I've been very scruffy, and I thought I need to look a little bit more my age, and I need to look a little bit more scholarly. And I thought, yeah, well, I'll try it out. And I'm liking it so far. I'm not quite sure my wife.
Well,
If the Taliban take over, you might be a little safer.
Well, that's right. I think that's if they can look scary, so can I. And I thought, well,
right.
A beard might help that.
But you're looking more. You are an intellectual, but you're looking a little bit more intellectual, but also a little bit.
Just need a pipe now.
But also a little bit of like a very wise man of faith, maybe a monk, a hermit, maybe a wise rabbi. So it's kind of, is it working for you or what?
It seems to be, yes. It does. I've had less speaking engagements lately, so I don't know if that's been a factor. But yeah, it's working well for me. I'll keep it on for a bit longer for sure.
Yeah, keep it going and keep us updated on it, and we'll be updating our audience. Trevor, thank you for being.
Pleasure, Jamie.
Thank you for being on the front lines always for freedom and for the truth. Everybody should go to trevorloudon.com, right?
Yep, that's where all my books and videos and everything available, especially my latest books. You'll find some great stuff there.
Stealth,
Kamala Harris's Communist Roots. It's still selling really well, and it's all about the Chinese infiltration of the Democratic Party, how they gave us Obama, how they gave us Stacey Abrams and Andrew Gillum and Kamala Harris, and they're still working to infiltrate the Democrats, flood the country with illegals, steal our elections, and bring us to our knees. It's all laid out. The head of the Christian anti-communist crusade, called my book, Stealth, Kamala Harris's Communist Roots, the book of the century.
Wow.
Okay? Not the book of the year, the book of the century. So he didn't get a commission for saying that, but I was very flattered by that evaluation.
Okay, you are number one, Trevor. Good luck in everything. Hope to see you back soon. Take care.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you for joining the Glazov Gang this evening. We'll see you soon. Good night.